Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630. WMAL.
7:07 on the Morning Majority, and we are happy to have with us Senator Mike Crapo of the great state of Idaho. How's it going, Senator?
Going well, thank you. Good to be with you.
Good morning. We are coming up on, about 2 weeks until there's supposed to be this big deal out of the supercommittee. We've heard some rumors that there was a package on the table, maybe led by Senator Pat Toomey, to the tune of maybe adding $300 billion in tax revenue, $1.5 trillion package, and that maybe Democrats walked away. What do you hear from the supercommittee? What's shaping up in there?
Well, that is basically what the development was yesterday, which I think is a very positive development. I think that the revenue package that the Republican team put forward was closer to about $500 billion out of that $1.5 trillion proposal. And I think that it was a very positive step, not only because it appears now that we are starting to see very meaningful efforts to bring parties together from both sides, but also because this proposal is a very pro-growth proposal. It's going to make our economy stronger and generate more jobs because it will also reform the tax code, which is one of the critical things we need to do.
Do you think Democrats are still at the table discussing this, or as Rand Paul mentioned, have they left the building on this?
Unfortunately, it appears that they have left the table at this point. They, as I understand it, didn't even offer a response back, which I think is very unfortunate. The positive thing is that this was, I think, a real breakthrough, as Senator Durbin, the number 2 leader in the Democratic caucus, indicated. But for whatever reasons, they have walked away from the table. Now, I have to believe that they're going to come back because it's too important for us to fail to get this done. We don't have the alternative of gridlock right now. The danger to our country from the debt crisis we face is too big, and it is too imminent for them to stay away from the table. So I think that there will be more negotiations.
Can you give us any details on what the package was besides the, you said $500 billion of new revenue? Do we know where that would come from? And also these tax, overhauling the tax system, what would the new numbers, what would the new rates be?
My understanding is, and I don't think anybody has the exact details, but my understanding is that the general approach was to have, as the Gang of Six or the Bowles-Simpson did, to have a reform of the tax code that would dramatically broaden the base and eliminate a lot of the loopholes in the code while reducing the rates. I believe the rates were somewhere down in the 28% range for the highest rate on individuals, which right now is 35 and is going up to 39 in about a year. And I believe on the corporate level it was down to about a 25% rate. And in addition, there were a number of other sources of revenue that were looked at, selling some assets, generating some very powerful improvement in the compliance with the code because of the nature of the tax reforms and so forth that also worked into the total package.
So does the new revenue mean that you would let the Bush tax cuts expire, or at least they would go up a little bit, not maybe to the 39%, but a little bit higher? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
No, actually, if this proposal were accepted, then what would happen is that an entire reformed tax code would be created. The Bush tax cuts would no longer be implemented because they are increases.
Right.
The elimination of them would increase the old code. The new code would be just an entirely new set of rates, and the highest rate in that new code would be 28%, so that you'd see a dramatic reduction of tax rates. But you would be able to see an increase in income because of the flattening of the code and the broadening of the base and the reform that takes place that would make our economy so much stronger.
Okay, from getting rid of deductions.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I want to change topics. Do you mind?
No, not at all.
Well, we've been talking about what's been going on with the Republican nomination process. Last night, if you saw the debate, Rick Perry had sort of a bad moment. Not to beat up on these candidates, but, you've had this Perry moment. Certainly, we've all witnessed what's been going on with Herman Cain. What's your sense of these two things?
Well, unfortunately, I was not able to see the debate last night, but I know the general discussion that you're headed toward, and having seen many very, very extensive and engaged primary battles of different types over the years, I can tell you that these kinds of things happen in primaries. It's the time when the vetting takes place and all of the attacks, if you will, all of the testing of each candidate's positions and so forth occurs. And I'm not surprised to see weak moments in different coming from different candidates or the identification of concerns about candidates come forward. That's the process. And so I actually think that we are seeing what always happens in primaries, and ultimately we will give the American public, and in this case the Republican voters, an opportunity in their primaries to make a much more educated and vetted decision.
Do you think that either of these things knocks, Kane, we obviously know what that story's about, and then Perry's issue was that he apparently could not recall the third item that he would do away with if he were the President of the United States and the government, and it went for 53 seconds. It was sort of an embarrassing moment. So either of these things sort of knock these guys out permanently, or are these things that they can survive and come back to live another day?
I think that particularly in the Kane situation, that may be something that could result in a very permanent injury to him in terms of the ability to win the primary. I don't know for sure, but with regard to the kind of circumstance that you described with Governor Perry, I don't think that those kinds of things are the kinds of things that people make their voting decisions on. I think they make their decisions much more on the basis of the substance of the policy that is being presented by the candidates.
Okay.
Well, one other question on the supercommittee. Is there a possibility that their time could be extended? Could you give them actually a few more weeks to try work out a deal if there is something that's on the table?
There definitely is that possibility. I would not want to create the impression, though, that I think Congress would would be likely to take that step unless they were of the opinion that the talks were moving along so well that another week or two or what have you would actually result in a very powerful bipartisan outcome. So in other words, if they were really close and they needed to have just a little extra time, maybe Congress would do that. But if they just said, hey, we can't get there and we need some more time, I'm not sure that the mood in Congress would be to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
I do believe, though, that whatever happens, there will be further steps. As you're probably aware, I'm part of that group that thinks that we need to get to much more than 1.2 trillion.
Right.
We need to get to about 4 trillion. And whatever happens, if we don't get to 4 trillion, we need to continue the undertaking to make sure that we properly change our fiscal policy in the United States in a way that will make a difference.
Well, Senator, it was great to have you on the program. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.